Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Unexplained Reality. I am Brian Quinn. With me is
Harrison Quinn.
And hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. We did. Had family in town. It was a good time. Made a lot of food and had fun just hanging out. So we'll just roll right into it. Everything going okay, buddy? Last day of school today, right?
Yep, last day of school. Had my engineering exam. But now I'm out, so out for the summer.
Cool. Any news? You got anything? Start off with.
I don't think I have any news. If you go ahead and tell your stories, and I can see if anything comes to mind, because I feel like there was something I heard about the other day.
Well, I guess before we get started, we probably should do our normal spill. You know, if you need to want to contact us or have a story you want to share, you can always get us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. We'd love to hear from you. Love to interact. You can get us up on Facebook. Find us on our page. Like us. Shoot us a message that way. Also, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and you can get us on any of those. Come follow us. Like our stuff. Be great. Also, we ask that you maybe, if you can, rate us, give us comments on your favorite podcaster. So it helps boost us up the rankings, and it just makes it better for us, which will make it better for you guys. I think that's my spill. I do have a few stories for the news tonight. The first couple come from phantomsofmonsters.com. This is about a huge unknown bird sighting in northwest Indiana. This actually happened back in early 2000s, and it was in the area of Chicago, not far from Chicago. So the guy says, my brother and his family lived in a more rural setting than myself. Oftentimes I would spend a Saturday evening with him and his family relaxing under the many stars I never saw, being closer to the city. It was tranquil, quiet, and the sky at night was lit up like fireworks with stars. One summer evening, as it was approaching 11 p.m. or so, we were talking, and out of nowhere, an enormous bird, owl/thing, came off the roof of his 3-car garage and flew over us. As I looked up to the starlit sky, it was completely blacked out by this thing, and the sound of wings in air could be heard. My sister-in-law ran into the house, but I strained to see what it was. It had an enormous wingspan. Its silhouette was just massive, maybe 7 feet or so across. I remember thinking, that's too big for a bird, even an owl. My brother came out asking what all the fuss was about, was that his wife was yelling at him to go see. I explained what I saw, and he knows I'm not a fabricator. I say what I saw. He said, and I quote, hell of a time for me to go to the head. I missed it. So to this day, when I'm out at night, I look up at a whole lot more. This world has unexplained events everywhere. It was in northwest Indiana in the early 2000s. I don't know, 7 feet doesn't seem like a extremely
It's not
big wingspan to me. I think, the California condor gets very big, which this is in Indiana, so this wouldn't be the case for this one, but I know eagles, some owls get large wingspans. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it could have been an owl or a large bird of prey, such as a hawk, because we've seen giant turkey vultures and hawks before. But him describing 7 feet is massive. I don't know. That's kind of a
that's big, but I don't know. 7 feet is. I don't know. It seems like it's in the realm of possibility of a big owl or a big eagle, a hawk, something. I don't know. But I'm not a bird expert either. But the next one comes from phantomsofmonsters.com also. This one has been on the news. I've seen it on national news. This is about the lady in red picture that was taken in Vancouver. It says an elevator mechanic in Vancouver may have inadvertently photographed one of the city's most famous ghosts, the legendary Lady in Red. Scott Graham was working at a neighboring building last week when he snapped a photo of the historic Hotel Vancouver with his cell phone. When he later looked at the photo, Graham noticed something amiss about the image, as there appears to be a distinct red presence lurking in one of the hotel's top floor windows. Some suspect that the mechanic may have captured a glimpse of an infamous ghost dubbed the Lady in Red, who is said to haunt the Hotel Vancouver and has been seen on multiple occasions by guests and staff. A subsequent investigation by Vancouver Sun found that that the area where the anomaly appears is actually closed to the public at this time due to maintenance. Meaning that it is unlikely that the apparition was simply a hotel guest wearing red. For his part, Graham is skeptical that the oddity is the actual Lady in Red, as the self-described skeptic told the newspaper that it's probably just some person wearing a red shirt that's somewhere where they're not supposed to be. Then again, perhaps the same could be said of the spirit some believe still lingers atop the Vancouver Hotel. I don't know, it's very noticeable. There's something red there, but it's definitely hard to distinguish, what it is. It almost looks like there's maybe a head up there, but who knows if that's what you're seeing. It's pretty cool though. Pretty cool picture. I don't know. Maybe it's closed up there because of the Lady in Red. Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah, it's a cool picture though. The next one is I've actually read this. Well, I haven't read this story, but I've seen the picture before. This picture was taken in 2011. The story comes from Cryptozoology News, and if I can get it to load, we'll look at it. It's a creepy Bigfoot photograph from Canada. It's taken in British Columbia. It says in 2011, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, Sanel Hadzik, was reportedly walking with her dog in British Columbia's Teapot Hill hiking trail in Canada when she came upon a primate-like creature. Hadzik claims that as she began changing music in her iPhone and not really paying attention to her surroundings, her canine friend started barking. I noticed something about 50 feet ahead of me, she said, on Bigfoot encounters. It was in the bushes. The Canadian woman who reported being scared and frozen said she kept staring at the purported animal until she decided to take a picture with her iPhone 4. She added that she used a full zoom in order to snap a closer picture. The creature, she said, featured a long face and bigger forehead with brown hair all over its body. It was about 7 feet tall and looked like an ape. I believe I saw a Sasquatch, she is quoted as saying. Cryptozoology News real or hoax series focus on video and photograph evidence in order to gather information from you, the reader, and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, if you go there, there's a video and it shows the picture, and it is pretty creepy. Although it's pretty far away, but you can make it out. It's very light colored hair and light skin. I mean, it's almost like like a normal Caucasian skin. But yeah, but it also could look like pretty much half of the people we see at Walmart on a daily basis. So.
Red Bank's Walmart.
Yeah, so it's pretty it's cool looking, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a wild man, not a Sasquatch, which is really what the old timers used to call Sasquatch, anyways. They just called them wild men, but I don't know. You can really tell it had something on its shoulders and stuff. So it's pretty cool though. 9 feet tall though. That's
pretty massive.
Yeah, that's big. Of course, you can't really tell the scale because it's standing like ferns or whatever, and the only thing you have is references a log in front of it and on the trail. But then you don't know how big that log is. The next story I have is from the Daily Mail. And this is about Robert Bigelow, which anybody dealing with UFOs or interested in UFOs and aliens knows about Robert Bigelow and his company. But it says billionaire aerospace entrepreneur, aerospace entrepreneur who has recently worked with NASA has said He is absolutely convinced that there are alien visitors living on Earth. Robert Bigelow, whose company Bigelow Aerospace has built expandable space habitats for the International Space Station, was speaking in an interview with 60 Minutes on Sunday. The conversation focused on working with NASA before it shifted to Mr. Bigelow's reported obsession with aliens. As the mogul revealed, he has invested millions into UFO research. Asked whether he believed in aliens, Mr. Bigelow responded, "I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it. There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence on Earth. I spent millions and millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject." Mr. Bigelow did not specify exactly how much he has spent on this research and declined to comment on any personal UFO encounters. So that's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm still up in the air about all that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess anything's possible, but I'm not sure. I'm completely believe that, there's extraterrestrials and UFOs. I'm not sure. I think there's probably an earthly explanation for a majority of the UFO sightings. Anyways, that's all I got. Do you have anything else to add, buddy, to this story?
Than Tiger Woods looking like a Furby.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods got arrested in Jupiter, Florida for a DUI. And according to his personal account, there was no alcohol involved, and it was a unexpected reaction to prescribed medicines. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like he probably was on something, whether it be drugs or alcohol. But he did kind of look like a Furby. There was a side-to-side comparison picture, and he looked like a Furby.
Yeah, if nothing else, he looked like he was very unhappy to be where he was at that moment.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I mean, the guy's had some rough times with, his back and hadn't played very well. So,
yeah.
It's a bad break, but I'm sure, it's just another little hiccup for him. He'll rebound from it. Or
international golfer, man, come back.
Yeah, hopefully he won't spiral out of control. It's not a good thing, but anyway, so yeah, that was bad. Oh, also Greg Allman passed away this past week. That was not good. That was big loss from Southern Rock, and so that's another one gone from the music world. Another great. All right, so tonight, I guess we can dive right into our main agenda tonight, which is dun, 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 Mellon heads. This is do you want to make some opening statements about it, buddy?
So there's, just to get this started, there's 3 states that melon heads have been sighted in: Michigan, Connecticut, and Ohio, I think. Was it Ohio?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And each state has their own legend or rumor based on where they came from or how were they created. I want to say it was Ohio that had probably the craziest legend or like rumor behind how they got started. All of them are talking about the scientist and that kind of story, but you can go ahead and get into it. But
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, there's a couple different scenarios in multiple locations, but they're like, let's start off with Dr. Crow, who was the main guy, and he lived down this road, and supposedly had a house at the end of this lonely road, and him and his wife, from what I understand, could not have children, and took on these kids that had hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. And there's 2 different scenarios. Some people say, it's like with any urban legend like this, there probably is a level of truth, and this guy was a real guy, and So, you know, you don't know, though. Kids are kids, and they make up stories about things that they don't, you know, that scare them or make them uneasy. So, anyways, this Dr. Crow, he had this house way down the end of this road, and him and his wife lived in it. Supposedly, they couldn't have any kids. So, he took in these kids that had hydrocephalus. And one of the scenarios tells that he was, you know, he just cared for these kids that were unloved, unwanted, because it was common back in that time. I think this was in the 60s. I want to say the 60s, 50s, 60s, something like that. I could be wrong on that date. But basically, some people say, well, he took them in and cared for these kids that didn't have any love, didn't have any family, and he was their family, him and his wife. And through the years, you know, they raised a number of these children that had this ailment. And when he got old and passed away, you know, they didn't know they were still living with him. They didn't know anything else. They'd basically been banished from society because people didn't even want to look at them or be around them. And after, you know, he passed away, they basically just, there's statements saying that you know, they got unruly or whatever, maybe knocked over a lamp and caught the house or cabin on fire that they lived in, and they escaped, but his body burned up in the fire, and then they went out into the woods and lived in the woods, and that they inbred, and that over the years they've had babies among themselves and wound up having, you know, the condition just, you know, moving along through their offspring. There's another that states that he was actually like a mad scientist, and that he had some connection back to Joseph Mengele, and that he did all these experiments, and that he actually injected these children that already had hydrocephalus, that he injected more fluid into their brain to make their brains even more abnormal. And you know, they basically, you know, revolted against him and burned his house down and escaped into the woods. So the end result on both of these stories is they supposedly escaped into the woods and are living in the woods, inbreeding. I don't know, you know, the interesting thing is that, for me, I mean, it's hard to believe that they'd be running around the woods, you know, taking care of themselves, but there's been numerous encounters with, so there's some kind of truth to this. People are seeing something. I don't think these are widespread sightings. They usually happen in a generalized area in these different states. I believe Dr. Crow was, I think he was in Connecticut. That's where the basis of the Connecticut stories happen. And I guess, you know, we should go back to some of these sightings. So basically the Mellon heads, what people are seeing is, like, I have one case where this man is with his family and they're driving down this road, and there's fields on both sides, and there's a ditch, like irrigation ditch, next to the road, and they see this creature, like a man, in the road, and he's wearing clothes, or he's on the side of the road in the ditch, irrigation ditch, but he's got this bulbous head, you know, abnormally large bulbous head, and he's running next to the car, and then eventually runs off into the woods. But, you know, he's stated as being a man, wearing tattered clothing, but with this abnormally large head, and that's pretty much all the cases are the same way. Another case happened at the what is the name of this place? The Felt Mansion, and this is in Michigan, and where these teenagers, being teenagers, happened in the 80s. They went looking for some adventure, looking, you know, how teenagers do. They're always looking for something to get into. And they went to this place called the Felt Mansion. And in the Felt Mansion, I think at that time it was abandoned. But there's rumors about this place, very similar to like what happened with Dr. Crow. There's a history that, you know, this was kind of a low security prison, and there was also an asylum supposedly, but and there was stories about what went on at this facility, but in this encounter, these teenagers go to this Fern Mansion and just looking, you know, they've heard stories about the Mellon heads, and they're going out there just goofing off, and they show up and they hear something in the bushes, and all of a sudden there's a man standing there with this bulbous head, and he starts walking slowly towards them, and they try to interact with him and say, hey, you know, we're not meaning to harm, we're just, and they don't get any kind of response from him other than a grunt and him starting to move faster, and basically it comes to the point where he starts running at them, and they jump in the car and peel out, which, you know, smart move. Most of these encounters from the people that tell the tale are just, you know, getting scared by this thing and having it run after them or run at them. But there's, you know, as with any tale, there are different levels of encounters and speculation on things when animals and people come missing in an area where, you know, some reported cryptid lives, and the cryptid gets blamed on it. And it's no different with the Mellon heads. So, you know, the encounters we have, these 2 or 3 encounters we have, are all pretty much the same, where the thing comes at them and grunts and never really verbalizes with them other than grunting. But then there's people that say no, they eat other people, and that's part of how their condition has, I guess, metastasized, is that they go and kill people, and you know, some say, well, they abduct babies and little children and eat them, cannibalize, and that just promotes the whole situation they're already in, you know, with the hydrocephalus or whatever is going on with them. Appears to be hydrocephalus, but, you know, nobody's actually, you know, all this, there's not very much documentation for these creatures other than what people see and the speculation about Dr. Crow and the Felt Mansion. It's interesting to me, though. There was one story I read where, here's, jump in, buddy, if you have something to add. Just shut me down because I'm just rambling on.
Go ahead.
But it was one story I read. There was a story about this couple that lived in this cabin with these kids, and they were all, the family was like ousted from the society because they were believed to be witches or be practicing witchcraft, and supposedly their children had hydrocephalus, and that just, you know, added to their society turning on them, or, you know, not having anything to do with them. So what somebody went to this place and talked to them, and the man had apparently stated that he was actually did nuclear testing in World War II, and that is the reason his kids are, you know, had hydrocephalus, was because of what he was exposed to when he did testing for the government. And this is kind of an interesting story for me because as I was reading this, it kind of triggered, I was just reading this book called Area 51 by, I can't remember the last name of the author, but I'm sure anybody that's interested, it's the history of Area 51, which everybody knows is this secret base that the U.S. government supposedly doesn't even have, but everybody knows it's there. It's at Groom Lake in the Nevada, middle of Nevada, you know, 30, 40 miles north of Las Vegas. And basically in this book where she's talking about the history of Area 51, at the end she talks to an engineer that used to work there, and she interviewed him, and basically they talk about the whole Roswell, New Mexico incident. And supposedly that the Roswell, New Mexico incident was actually a UFO that was built by Joseph Stalin's, but he had that built and had flown that, had it flown from supposedly remote control, flown across Alaska and down to New Mexico. What the plan was is it was going to land and these little people were going to come out, which actually turned out to be like 13-year-olds that had been genetically and surgically altered to look like aliens. And this UFO was supposed to land, and they were supposed to come out, and then people were, the U.S. was, mass panic. The UFOs have landed in New Mexico, and, the U.S. was going to come to go bonkers, and everybody's going crazy. Basically like what happened with War of the Worlds, when that radio show came out, and everybody took it as being truth, and it was actually just an entertainment show. So basically, Joseph Stalin was trying to do the same thing with these UFOs, but they actually crashed instead of landing, gracefully. But these bodies that came out of it, the man said these were genetically and surgically altered children. That they had bulbous heads, that they had, fluid and stuff on the brain to make them look the way they did. I mean, maybe they were hydrocephalus babies that they just, were probably in an orphanage or something, and they took advantage of that, But it's very sad, it's very unfortunate, but these are, supposedly what happened here. But this makes me think with the whole Mellon head things. When this guy mentioned the World War II and the nuclear testing, this engineer that worked at Area 51, he stated that the U.S. did similar testing and alterations to retarded and orphan children, and that apparently this took place from the 60s all the way up into the 80s. I don't know, maybe the Mellon head's got some tie there. I don't know, since it's centralized to Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut, in certain areas, not very widespread. And there's some correlation to these being like asylums or places where, people with mental, what's the word I'm looking for? Mental ailments, diseases, were cared for. I don't know. I'm stretching here. I can't draw direct, there's no direct correlation here. It's just me blabbing about it. But after reading that in the book, I actually just read that part last night, and I was shocked. And then to get into, diving into the Mellon head thing, and it was like, man, that's crazy. Maybe this is a government experiment, which I've kind of felt, possibility, not so much with Bigfoot, but you hear these dogman encounters up in Michigan, Wisconsin and stuff. Who knows? Who knows what the government's done, and if they've altered creatures or, crossbred, or who knows? I don't know. I don't think so much with Bigfoot, because I think Bigfoot's been around for thousands of years, based off of Indian or native people's oral, history being passed down, cave drawings, cave paintings, whatever. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy story, and the whole Felt Mansion, talking about that being an asylum. Supposedly these hydrocephalus babies were, the story with that place was they lived in this were cared for in this Felt Mansion facility, and that the facility had lost funding, so basically it was just shut down. And I don't know if these kids had escaped or something. I'm not sure what the story is there, but supposedly there's tunnels that are all under that facility, and that it was believed that these creatures or humans or whatever they are lived in those tunnels, and that's where they've bred and maintain themselves, and that if you go there you could potentially have an encounter with them. I don't know. The place has been revamped, and I think it's open now as, I don't know if it's a museum or something. It's back open, so I don't think that is. I don't know if that's. Obviously, there's people there every day if it's open as a facility of some type. So I doubt there's a Mellon head running around unless he's just hanging out and comes out at night, which is where most of the cases. I mean, there are cases where it happened. They've been sighted during the day, but the majority of them do happen at night, late at night. What you got, buddy?
You said it.
Oh, I thought you had something else to add.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's listed on a lot of sites as an urban legend. I guess it is, but it can't really be because you have people. I mean, it's no different than Bigfoot because you have people that swear they've seen this. So I don't think you can really say, "Oh, this is just an urban legend," like alligators in in the sewer in New York. There's some level of truth to it. I think most urban legends are, whether they might be distorted out of actual reality, but there is some level of reality with that. I think it's very interesting that you have these sightings in Michigan and Ohio. Michigan and Ohio both have a number of cryptids. I mean, you have people claiming to see Bigfoot. You have people claiming to see a lot of dogmen up in that area. Ohio is like one of the highest ranking for Bigfoot sightings in the country. I think it's within the top 5 there as far as the number of sightings. And you have Michigan, you have Wisconsin. Both are big dogmen sighting areas. I'm not sure about Connecticut. I'm not sure where that ranks as far as any cryptids. So, but I mean, as I stated, there's some level of truth to this. There's not. I don't know that these are. I don't know they fall into the cryptid category. What would you call that? I mean,
more like a rumor. Or
hybridization.
Like that. Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if you can say hybridization. It's just a mutant, I guess. Somebody, whether it's naturally or if it's a genetically altered person or surgically altered person, but it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. I mean, and just a little facts here. I got some information about hydrocephalus for those who don't know what hydrocephalus is. If I can actually find it. Which I can at the moment. This is a definition from the Mayo Clinic, what hydrocephalus is, for those who don't know. It's a buildup of fluid in the cavities or ventricles deep within the brain. The excess fluid increases the size of the ventricles and puts pressure on the brain. Cerebrospinal fluid normally flows through the ventricles and bathes the brain and spinal column, but the pressure of too much cerebral spinal fluid associated with the hydrocephalus can damage brain tissues and cause a large spectrum of impairments in brain function. Although hydrocephalus can occur at any age, it's more common among infants and older adults. Surgical treatment for hydrocephalus can restore and maintain normal cerebral spinal fluid levels in the brain. A variety of interventions are often required to manage symptoms or functional impairments resulting from hydrocephalus. So, I mean, you got this pressure on the brain, which is obviously going to potentially cause problems with functions, speech. I guess it could cause almost like retardation. So that would explain like people seeing these Mellon heads and them not responding to them when they try to talk to them, and they just get grunts and moans. I mean, can you imagine if these were kids that were say this doctor or whoever is responsible for these creatures or individuals, if they were genetically altered or had extra fluid put on the brain, it's got to be tremendously painful. When you think, I mean, it's got to be a painful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's just, there's some cruel people in the world. If that's the case, I mean, obviously we don't know that, but that's the speculation here. Man, to do that to a child, I mean, even if they already have issues or something going on, that's just a really, really, man. I mean, just reading that book last night and reading what that man said about what Joseph Stalin had done to these children. And supposedly there was 4 of them, and 2 of them were still alive or in like a comatose state. But then the ear that the United States, him to say the United States was doing similar stuff up into the 80s, that's crazy. I mean, regardless if the person is mental retardation or what kind of ailment they had, it's just inhumane. To take a human being and basically monk with them and make things most likely worse. And that was one of the statements about the one story. There was 2 different scenarios for Dr. Crow. That one said, oh, he was a great man and he took care of these kids that had hydrocephalus and made a home for them and people that came. And then there was the other part, was like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and he was the bad one that supposedly did all these crazy experiments and supposedly they were so painful to these kids, and that's why they would have revolted and burned his house down and stuff. So I mean, I would imagine if you've got this ailment, you're already having probably a lot of pain with it, and then for somebody to mess with you, I guess that could be a true thing. Get enraged, and so anyways, it's weird one. This is probably one of the weirder shows we've done as far as subject matter. So
yeah,
but that's it. And supposedly these encounters do still happen. I honestly couldn't find any really good ones from recent times. I think the latest one I found was in the early 2000s, but yeah, some crazy stuff going on. I mean, we already knew Ohio and Michigan, but in Connecticut, so that's the Mellon heads. If you have any stories or anything to add to what we have here, you can always hit us up on our Facebook page or get us on our email, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You got anything to close out with, buddy?
Mm-mm.
I guess we got to come up with something for next week, so we'll probably be working on that in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
We tried out a new venue tonight as far as recording, so we'll see how this sounds when we get done here and judge whether this is going to be our next one or not. But just trying to tweak things out, and hopefully we'll improve the show and make things better for you guys going forward. Just bear with us. We'll make changes little by little until we get something that we're really, really happy with. So I guess you got a week of relaxation coming ahead. You're not going to do much of anything, are you?
Probably not, no.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's been a long year, so the summer will be quick. So you better suck it up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But as usual, hit us up, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. Facebook, you can find us. Just look up Unexplained Reality. Twitter, Instagram. We usually post all of our shows through Instagram, and it goes to Twitter and Facebook. Don't be shy. Respond to us. Let us know what you think. And most of all, on your favorite podcatcher, wherever you're downloading this from or listening to it, please rate us. Please give us a review, comment. All that is great, and it helps us better the show and move us up some rankings so we can get more visibility. Let me see. There was something else I was getting ready to say. What was it? Why would you know, right? I guess that's it. I can't think of what it was. But we thank everybody for listening. We've had a tremendous boost this week in downloads, which is awesome. We're well on our way to 1,000 downloads. I checked a little while ago. We're in the mid 900s, so that's awesome. We hope to be bringing you guys some more content. I know this Mellonhead show was kind of a quick one, but maybe we'll squeeze out another one this week, and with a little more content, and that'll be good. We'll be working on the website shortly. Hopefully over the summer we can get that built up and give you guys some more options, and probably start also along with our episodes to give a blog for the episode, so people can go out there and also read the content that we're providing, or the basic subject matter that we discuss. So I think that's it. So hit us up, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Show some love to RickyYoung.com. He was gracious enough to let us use his music for our episodes. And as usual, we ask you to check out our favorite podcasts. And what got us interested in this, the first one being Sasquatch Chronicles, Into the Fray Radio, OK Talk, Saswhat, Monsters Among Us,
The Confessionals,
Greyland
Report,
The Greyland Report, Mysterious Universe, Somewhere in the Skies. I think that's it for right. All right, I think that's all of them. If we missed somebody, we apologize. We'll catch you next week. And I think that's going to be a wrap. So, you think, buddy? You good? Mm-hmm. All right. Take us away, Mr. Ricky Young.
I lay down the bottle of fine ligonier. Sleep sure does feel good. I'm on my way back to the same old me, like I never thought I would. I'm working out, going out, hanging out with friends. I'm joking, laughing, smiling, and then here you come again, knowing I can't turn you away. Dragging thunder behind you, and clouds that pour down the pane like gas on a flame. Oh, baby, here comes the rain. Days without sunshine till I finally found a shelter in a new lover's arms. Things couldn't be better when I hear that sound. Suddenly the skies all turn dark. I feel the wind rushing in and chills up my back. Nowhere to hide, no way to fight, a ghost from the past. Here you come again, knowing I can't turn you away. Dragging thunder behind you, and clouds that pour down the pane like gas on a flame. Oh, baby, here comes the rain. And clouds that pour down the pane like gas on a flame.